Hey everyone, it's Jess from Sallie Tomato and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to install textured loop strap connectors. This hardware is so easy to install and it makes your handmade bags look extremely high-end. So let's jump right into the tutorial. First, you'll need to gather a few supplies. You'll need some fabric for your project. I'm going to show you two different methods for installing the hardware. So I have two different pieces of fabric ready to go. One set of textured loop strap connectors, and this hardware comes in a set of 4, and then per each piece of hardware you get 2 washers, and these will be for installing the hardware and securing it to your bag. This hardware comes in 5 different colors. This is the nickel finish, there's gold, antique finish, gunmetal finish, and also rose gold. So pick whichever one goes with your fabric the best. You'll also need a marking pen or a piece of chalk. You'll also need a scrap of lightweight fusible interfacing, and what I'm using is Bozal Fashion Fuse. And you might also need a piece of Craftex, and this is made by Bozal. It is a stiff, firm stabilizer that we'll use to support our hardware on the back side. And lastly, you'll need either a seam ripper or a pair of sharp scissors. First, I'm going to show you how to install the hardware on a piece of stabilized fabric. So perhaps your project already has interfacing according to the instructions, so then you're ready to go. Just make sure that you have some stability on the back. So for example, I'm using a piece of cork fabric and I've already stitched down a piece of foam stabilizer. So we're going to start with marking the placement for our connector, and usually your pattern will tell you where to install the connector, and I'm just going to center mine on my project. So your hardware will come in the package flat, and you're going to want to start by bending the prongs outwards so they're perpendicular to the hardware. So there's 4 prongs on the back side. Then you're going to position it on your project according to your pattern, and either you can press down really hard and then remove the hardware and you'll see indents where your prongs were poking on your fabric, and then you can mark those with your pen. Or another way is to position it on your fabric, and then I just kind of move the hardware away and I mark each prong one at a time. Or you can just keep it flat and then take your pen and just mark above each of the prongs. Any way is fine, whatever's easiest for you. Another tip would be to take a piece of tailor's chalk and to rub it against the back side of each of the prongs, so that way it leaves some chalk on the prongs. And then you can press it down onto your fabric and the chalk will leave a little bit of a mark on your project. So there's a variety of ways to mark the prongs. So I'm just going to press down hard and take my pen and transfer those impressions onto my fabric. Then you're going to take your seam ripper and cut a very small slit at each of those marks, and make sure you poke through all of the layers. And we're only going to cut the length of each prong, so it's only about 1/8 of an inch. Then you're going to take your hardware and poke the prongs through each of those holes, and then flip it over to the wrong side. Then you're going to take your washers and position them over the prongs. So you're going to have one washer for half of the prongs and then the other washer over the other 2 prongs. And then I always press down so that way we have a nice tight fit, and you can just bend the prongs outwards and that'll secure your hardware down in place. And it is super strong. That is not going anywhere, and it has a very professional touch. One other tip, so here I have just some lightweight woven interfacing, and lay it over the back side of your hardware. Cut it out to be just a little bit larger than your hardware, and it doesn't have to be pretty. Then you're going to place it over the wrong side and take this over to your iron and iron it down. And that'll protect your lining and the inside of your bag from the metal of your hardware. So I have one other method to show you for installing the hardware. If you're using a piece of material that doesn't have any interfacing on it, I'm going to show you how to secure the hardware in place. So you're going to start by transferring the prong marks again. So this time I'm just going to use my pen and mark where the prongs are. Then remove the hardware and cut slits in the fabric. Now, before I put the hardware through the holes, I'm going to take a piece of my firm stabilizer and cut the size of about one of our hardware pieces. Then I'm going to transfer those prong marks to the firm stabilizer as well. Then you're going to cut the slits just like before. Next, you're going to take your hardware and poke it through your fabric first from the right side to the wrong side. Then you're going to flip it over to the wrong side and add that piece of stabilizer, and that'll add a lot of support to the back side and make the hardware fit a lot nicer. Then you're going to take your washers just as before and lay them over the prongs and press down on the washers and bend your prongs outwards. And again, you can take your scrap of fusible woven interfacing and iron it to the wrong side to protect your bag. So then we have a nice tight fit and a really professional look. I get so many compliments on the bags that I use this hardware on. People never believe that I actually make the bag myself. So I hope this tutorial inspires you to try the hardware on the next project, and there's a link in the description below to the hardware. See you next time!